Welcome back everybody, we're picking up exactly where we left off last time. So in the last one we were able to get our Pokémon Crystal disassembly building. We have a game of Pokémon Crystal on our PCs now, but now we want to edit it. We want to try and get a Pokémon backported. So we're going to start off by going back to the Crystal disassembly. We'll go to the main page, github.com/pret/PokeCrystal, and then if we scroll down we'll see tutorials. That's part of the wiki, and the tutorial we are looking for is how to add a new Pokemon species. Now you may have noticed we can only get 253 species in this, and that is because of the way the game reads the Pokemon code. We've got 253 slots, plus one for the egg, and plus one to say it's the end of the Pokemon list. So that means if you're wanting a 3-stage evolutionary line, it's going to be slightly more complex. It's going to be out of the scope of this particular tutorial, but at the moment we'll focus with just getting one Pokemon in. In order to get a Pokemon in, of course, we are going to need to decide on a Pokemon to backport. For this tutorial, we are going to be backporting Luvdisc. It might not be a very popular Pokemon, but it only learns moves that are currently in Generation 2 or before. And that's going to make this backport significantly easier if we don't have to worry about getting any new moves in. Don't worry, there will be a tutorial later down the line showing you how to backport a Pokemon with new moves. But for now, we're just going to focus on this one. If you do want to do Luvdisc along with me, I've put a link in the description to download all the bits and bobs I'm going to be using. And now, very quickly, before we get to the backport itself, there are two pieces of software that are going to make life a lot easier when you're working with the Pokémon Crystal disassembly. If we go to ninite.com, that's ninite.com, we'll get this page. And this is going to be a place where we can pick pieces of software to download and install without any of the crap that can come with them. We are looking for everything. It's search everything in the other category. We are also looking for Notepad++. So if we select both of those and then click on the download button or the get your Ninites button, they will download and then install them, and then we can work from there. And now with Search Everything and Notepad++ installed, we're pretty much good to go. Open up Search Everything. It'll take a little while to index all your files, but then you'll find yourselves with something like this. It's a big long list of everything you've got on your PC, and the thing we are looking for here is C:\Sigwin64 /home/ then your name, in my case it's Squidgy, and then PokeCrystal. If we do a backslash there, this is now filtering to just all of the folders that are contained within the PokeCrystal folder. If we then go onto path and click that, it will sort it by file path. And now I would highly recommend splitting your screen for the next part. Now, if you don't know how to split your screen, if you're on Windows, click onto the Search Everything window, hold down the Windows key on your keyboard and press the right arrow. That'll split one side, and then we want the tutorial on the left hand side, because we're not going to be following this tutorial piece by piece, but what we're going to do is we're going to get all of the files at once opened first, and then we can start working on the backport. And so the first file it wants is in constants and then Pokemon constants. So if we then go and type in after PokeCrystal constants and Pokemon constants, we can see we've got Pokemon constants here. Right click and then go to open with and then choose another app. You'll see this here. I've got Notepad++ as my default. Make sure you've got Notepad++ in the list, and then click always use this app to open up ASM files. We'll click that to open it up, and it will open up on my other screen. Unfortunately, I can't record both screens. That doesn't matter though, we are just going to be opening up all of these files. So we've done Pokemon constants. The second one is going to be in data Pokemon names. So if we do data Pokemon names, we'll open that one up. Now we're going to skip the third one for now because we need to create a file here, and we're just going for opening up all of the Pokemon at the moment. However, we do also need to open up the base stats file, so instead of data Pokemon names, it's going to be data Pokemon base stats.ism. We don't need to worry about growth rates either, so the next one is going to be data Pokemon and then Evo's attacks. We're going to do the pointers first, followed by Evo's attacks, and just to show you they are all opening up in a big line in my Notepad++. Unfortunately, I don't have room for everything. Maybe what I could do actually is if I drop that down there just a little bit. We'll have a very small search everything window and everything is just about on screen. We do also need Evo's attacks, which we've got. Let's scroll down a little bit further, and the next one is going to be egg move pointers. So egg move pointers is there, egg moves is there as well. We'll need both of those. Data Pokemon cries, let's have a look for cries. And we're going to keep going down this list. Data Pokemon menu items, or menu icons, I should say. Let's get that one open. Going to skip this because we need to create the file for that. We'll go through that in detail a little bit later on. For now, though, what we do need is the Dex entries pointers. We'll also need Dex entries. We need Dex order new and Dex order alpha. We need to design a footprint. We're going to be lazy here and we'll recycle something else. But we do need to open up, not in Data Pokemon, but in GFX. We need footprints. So if we get rid of the Data Pokemon for now, we'll just cut it. We'll type in footprints and we need the footprints.asm, and then we are back on to more things we will create a little bit later on. I'll tell you more about how these work as well. Let's keep scrolling down though. The next one is pick pointers. So if we go for pick pointers in Data Pokemon, we'll open that one up. We don't need to worry about this one, but GFX picks.asm is the next one. For that one, I would recommend opening up GFX itself and then picks.asm. We've got Data Pokemon palettes as our next one. So back in Data Pokemon, palettes is the next one. And after that, we've got another one in GFX Pokemon. So we are really going all around the houses with these folders, which is why I recommended search everything. It's going to be anim pointers. We are also going to need anims as well. We need idle pointers. Let us get idle pointers as well as idols. And then we also need bit mask pointers and bit masks. Goodness me, there's a lot of folders here, isn't there? So let's get both of those opened up. We need frame pointers and frames. And this one we're actually going to be opening up Johto frames. And finally, there is just one more file left to open up. It's going to be in Data Pokemon again, and it's going to be Gen 1 order. Let's get down to the bottom of this list. We'll take a look at this in a little bit more detail later. But now let's make our notepad full screen. And now we are good to go. The first thing we will do, though, is we will click on File on Notepad++ and we will click Save Session. We do not want to ever lose this. Go out of your Poké Crystal folder, maybe into your user folder. It's called Squidgy for me. And we will call this one Pokémon Crystal backporting Pokemon files. And what that will do is it will save every single file that you have just opened, so we never have to go through the rigmarole of opening up all of those again. Now, the first file we are in is Pokemon Constants. That is what actually defines the Pokemon within the code. You may see on this list here in green, there are a bunch of places that are going to get referred to this Pokemon. We've already opened up all of those files, barring the easy chat. We don't need to worry about that one. And if you see anything start with a semicolon, that means the code is commented out. That means it's just words for a human to read, and when we go to make it, the thing that makes it will not be interpreting anything that's after a semicolon. So if we scroll all the way down, we are going to see that we have a split here for the Johto Pokemon, and then at the bitty bottom of the page, we have def num Pokemon EQ const value -1. And all that means is we've hit the bottom of the Pokemon list. What we want to do is we want to bring this FC line up. So if we select anywhere on the line, hold down Control and Shift and press up, it will move the line up. We want to get rid of the underscore, and then we're doing love discs. So we're going to type in LUVDISC. Let's get that back in line as well, and that's all we need to do for this file. We can move on to the next one, which is in the names. So let's scroll all the way down to the bottom again. Once again, we're going to take this line up and we're going to move it to below Celebi, and then we're going to type in love disc. So LUVDISC, and then we want to finish it off with a bunch of ats. We've got to make this exactly 10 characters long. So you can see Tyranitar up here only has a single ats because it's a 9-letter name, whereas something like Ho-Oh and Lugia have 5 different ats. That's everything we need to do here. Let's now move on to base stats. What we need to do is go to the bottom of the file, we duplicate the Celebi line and we replace Celebi at the bottom with love disc. That's all we need to do. Let's now move on to Evo's attacks. Once again, we're going to go to the bottom. We're going to create a new line here, and we're going to type in DW, then love disk, Evo's attacks. Then I would copy that onto the clipboard, save this file, move to the next file. This is Evo's attacks.asm. We'll go right down to the bottom as well. If you don't know how I go straight to the bottom, hold down Control and press End on your keyboard. That's how you get there right away. So let's start off by typing in love disk Evo's attacks. It could still be on your clipboard if you did copy it. So love disk Evo's attacks. Do a colon, and then the first thing we want to do is db0 semicolon, and then no more evolutions. That's because if we scroll up a little bit here, we have a Pokemon like Pupitar, and just before its moves, we define how it evolves. So Pupitar evolves at level 55 into Tyranitar. Now, Love Disc does not evolve, so we don't need to worry about that. We just need to tell it it's got no evolutions. So we're copying what Celebi has done here, and now we can get the level up moves in place. It's probably going to be handy at this point to split your screen once again, and we will get our web browser up. Let us open up a search. So we're going to go for Love Disc Generation 3 Learn Set. And so let's take a look at what we get. We start off with Tackle, so we'll do DB and then 1 because it's a level 1 move, comma, and then Tackle. New line, and then DB4, comma, Charm. The third one is Water Gun. Now, Water Gun has a space in it, so what we're going to do is we're going to replace the space with an underscore. You can see, actually, Notepad tries to fill in things if it's seen it before in the file, so you can hit Enter to save a bit of time if it's over the right one. At 16, we do, of course, get Agility, so we can do that. DB24 is Takedown. DB28 is Attract, and interestingly enough, that is not a level up move for any Pokemon in Gen 2. DB36 is Sweet Kiss, DB40 is Flail, and then finally DB48 is Safeguard. Now, if you've been looking at the end of the Celebi file, you'll see we copy it off with a DB0, and then you can, if you want, put no more level up moves. I generally don't these days, but for consistency's sake, we will. We can save it there and go on to the next one, and we're going to do something very similar here. We're going to go down to the bottom, and then DW, Love Disc, Egg Moves. We'll copy that onto the clipboard and move on to the next file. At the very bottom of this, we're going to do a colon after the egg moves. And now, let's take a look. The only two that we can get in Generation 2 there are Splash and Supersonic. So if we do DB/DB Supersonic and finish it off with DB-1 this time, we'll say that's the end of the file and we are done with the egg moves. Up next is the cries. Now, it's beyond the scope of this tutorial to show you how to create a new cry, so what I would suggest doing here is moving up the Nidoran M1, which is just below Celebi, because that is how it works in Generation 2. Cries are recycled from other Pokemon. I'm just going to put in some random numbers here, see what it sounds like at some point, and we will change 252 here to Love Disc. And let's keep persevering in these files. The next one is going to be the menu icon. This is going to be a fish Pokemon. I will now have a little look for a fish. I suppose Goldine's probably the easiest to look for. So let's have a look. DB icon fish. We'll copy that. We'll go down to the bottom of the file again and tab in. We'll just do icon fish. And once again, just for this one, we will mark it off as Love Disc. The next one is Pokédex entries, or at least the pointers for them. We're going to go down to the bottom once more. Underneath Celebi Pokédex entry, we will do DW Love Disc Pokédex entry. If I can spell Pokédex, it helps. And once again, we'll get it on our clipboard. Now, this is the next file. This is where we get all the Dex entries put in. We can get Notepad++ back in big now. If you hold Control and D on a line, it will duplicate. So if we do that, we've got two Celebi lines. Double-click the Celebi Pokédex entry and Control and V, and that will replace Love Disc there, and we will then do Love Disc just here as well. We'll create the Dex entry a little bit later on after we've edited all of these files, but for now, that's all we need to do. We'll go to Dex Order New, and once again, right at the bottom, we will add our love disk in. So it's DB, capitals for this, and love disk. Save, and that's all we need to do there. Alphabetical order, let's go for Lantern here. It'll be roughly there, just below Lugia. We will put in love disk, and here we are on footprints. Footprints, you can create your own. I'm not 100% sure on how to do it because I've never done it. I've always recycled. It only gets shown in the Pokédex. So for now, what we will do is we'll go to 252 and we will replace 252 with Goldeen. It's got a top half and a bottom half. Do both of those and we shall save. The next one is going to be pick pointers. Now this file has changed significantly since I got my copy that I've been working on my own starter patch. So this one's going to be a bit of a shot in the dark. Please do check the pinned comments if this has changed. But what I'm thinking we need to do is move this DBA picks up, and then we're going to go love disk front pick and then a comma, and then love disk back pick. That is what I think we need to do here. I will let you know in the comments or in the description if that has changed. We're on to pics.asm next. We'll go back up to the top here. And the next file is pics.asm. This is what's going to be pointing to the images and the sprites of the Pokemon we make. So what we're going to do is we are going to go all the way down to bank number 19. That's because bank number 19 is an accidental copy of bank 18. And that means we've got all this space to work with. Let's now scroll back up a little bit, and we're going to copy unknown Y front pick and unknown G back pick. We'll get them on the clipboard and then we'll bring them down here, and we are going to replace unknown Y with love disk. We're going to do it for all of them, but I would highly recommend copying the full name of your Pokemon without the starting letter for now on, because it's going to save so much time. We can do capital L and then of disk. We'll do love disk there and love disk there, and that's everything we need in this file. Palettes is a little bit similar to the last file. We're going to go all the way down to the bitty bottom again, and this time we are going to duplicate the two Celebi lines. So if we duplicate both of them, we can then replace Celebi with love disk, and it's very important. We've added a Pokemon here, so we're going to need to get rid of a Pokemon down here. So we are going to get rid of 252 because love disk is now the 252nd Pokemon. In another tutorial I'll explain what to do if we are adding 2 or more Pokemon, but for now that's all that matters. Let's move on to anim pointers. Once again we're going to go down to the bottom of this list. This one's fairly self-explanatory. We copy the Celebi line and we replace Celebi with love disk at the bottom. Once again it's very intuitive here. Just change Celebi to love disk after you've duplicated the line. Same with the idols, and it's going to be the same with the bit masks as well. So copy the line, replace with love disk, down to the bottom, copy the line, replace with love disk, and remember to replace it on both sides. And then we've got bit masks left to go as well. So we will do that. We will replace Celebi with love disk. We've only got one more of these to do, I think. There to there to there. And then we'll get rid of Celebi in place of love disk there. We're going to do it for the frames as well, so we'll go goodbye Celebi on the second line, and we will do the same here. Very simple stuff for the end part of this. And then let's not have a capital L there. The last one is Gen 1 order. Don't ask me why Wobbuffet is at the bottom twice on the Gen 1 order file. I've still not figured that out. All we need to do is do a love disk just like that. And we have reached the end of the file editing. We can get on to actually creating the files for our Pokemon now. So the first thing we're going to do is go back into our Sigwin folder. It's home, your username, and then Poké Crystal. We'll go into data, and then Pokemon, and then into base stats, and we are going to be creating our love disk base stats file. Now we know that Marill is in the same experience group and has the same typing, so we can nab off Marill's here, and we will copy and paste it. We'll rename it love disk, and let's open it up in Notepad++. This seems like a bit of an intimidating file at first, but don't worry, it is very, very intuitive. We start off at the top here, DB, we change Marill to a love disk, all in capitals like we did at the very beginning, and now we're going to need love disk's base stats. So let's go back on to Pokemon DB, and we will have a little look to see what love disk is all about. We have For our stats, 43 in HP, 30 in attack, we've got 55 in defense. Now this is speed, not special attack, and that is 97. Special attack is 40 and special defense is 65. We are water, we have a catch rate of 225. By the way, if it's a dual type, you just put in the same type twice. Base experience of 116. We're not going to be holding an item because the heart scale doesn't exist in Generation 3. In Generation 2, rather, gender. It's always done as a percentage of females. So this is 75% females, so we'll do gender underscore F75. We need 20 egg cycles to hatch. That's the same. We don't know what that one means. And we're going to change Maril here to Love Disc. DB null null, that's not used for this. Growth fast, because we're in the fast experience group. I do believe we are in just water 2. So once again, we will copy 2 egg groups in. If it's the same, we just put it in twice. And now here is the TM and HM learn set. This is going to be a bit of a job, but what you've got to do is you've got to determine a learn set for your Love Disc from the Generation 2 TMs, and you type them in all in capitals, underscores for any spaces, and then you just finish it off with the last one without a comma separating. So we'll get rid of those, and here is one I prepared earlier. Let me go back into my Sigwin folder, tutorial assets, first backport, and it's Love Disc, and we are in base stats. Let's get Love Disc, and let me copy all of those TMs. We'll do that. So in this instance, we've got Curse, Toxic, Psych Up, Hidden Power, Snore, Blizzard, Icy Wind, Protect, Rain Dance, Endure all the way down to Waterfall and Ice Beam. We can save that. That's the first one done. And now we need to go back into our Sigwin folder. So we're in base stats at the moment. We will go down to Dex entries, and once again, we're going to copy any of these files. It doesn't really matter which, and we will rename it Love Disc. And so the first thing we need to do is come up with the species name. I do believe Love Disc is the Rendezvous Pokemon. So we will type in RENDEZVOUS, finish it off with an @ I'm not sure how long that can be, but I think Rendezvous will fit. It is 2 feet tall, so this is 200. It's 2 inches slots plus a foot slot, and it is 192, 19.2 pounds heavy. Now we've got to fill in the dex next. This can be up to 17 characters in between the quotes for each line. So you've got a grand total of 68 characters you can use. And once again, I have already prepared one all up. So if we go back into my assets folder, first backport and dex entries, we'll open up this Love Disc one. We will copy and paste that, and let us replace the dex text there. So during the spawning season, countless Love Discs congregate at coral reefs, turning the waters pink. That's what I've done for my dex entry. That's all you need to do for that. And there's only one more thing we need to think about now, and that's getting a sprite done for Love Disc. And this really is where the fun begins. This is when you can start to give your Pokemon a little bit of personality. If we very quickly refer back to the tutorial page, we can see that this tutorial is suggesting creating an animation for your Pokemon. I'm not going to do that now. I don't think we have any need for an animation. We're just going to have a static sprite as if it was gold and silver. And the sizes are either 40 by 40, 48 by 48, or 56 by 56. I would always go for the largest of the 3 sizes. It gives you most space to work with. So we're now going to open up some image editing software. I am using Photoshop as my example. We will create a new file, and we're going to make it 56 by 56. So let's do that now. We've got our blank template, and that is going to be a nightmare to work with. So if we go over to Pokemon DB, we'll have a look at the sprites. We'll have a look at this Generation 3 sprite. We'll give it a copy, and then we'll paste it in, and it more than fits. However, we cannot use this sprite in its current state. In Generation 2, we are limited to just black, white, and 2 further additional colours. So we cannot use this as it is. So what I would suggest doing is grabbing your paint bucket here, and we're just going to start filling in some of these bits. I think we'll use this red here as well. for the outline. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do the beak yet. Maybe do that in black. But what we are looking for is just 4 colours, including black and white, in the sprite. It's a very, very basic and budget sprite. In fact, I'm not 100% happy with that. So I will give it some work and I will show you what I come up with. I ended up abandoning the Generation 3 base for a sprite. I've gone for the Gen 4 base as a sprite as well. You can see we've got 2 different shades of reddy orange, plus we've got black and white here. They're all the colours we can use. Now it's very important we have to index this. Index is using a colour table where we can select just the colours we need. So it's 4 colours. And what we should do really here, if you're using Photoshop, is get your lightest colour and your darkest colour on your eyedropper. Then it's image mode and indexed colour. We will get a little option saying flatten layers. We will say yes. Then we go to custom for the colour table. It goes from lightest colour to darkest colour. So if we go for that as the second colour, we will go for this first one as the first colour. We will click OK, we will click Save, and we have now got a front sprite. So I'm going to call this one Love Disc Front, save it as a PNG, because that's very important, and we can now work on the back sprite. Now, unlike the front sprites, the back sprites are always 48 by 48 pixels. So we'll create a new image, make it 48 by 48, and it has to have the exact same colours as your front sprite. It's very important that you use the exact same colours. So what I'll do here is I'll grab the back sprite from Generation 3, paste it in. We've got more than enough room there. Let's get it centered, but unfortunately we're going to have to do a little bit of recoloring. So once again, I'll do that and I'll meet you when it's done. And there we go. It's very basic, it's very perfunctory, but it does get the job done. We're going to need to index one this just like we did the last time, and we'll use the exact same colors. And we're going to call this one Love Disc Back. So LUVDISC back.png, give it a save, and now we are good to get them in the file structure. And so what we need to do is we need to head over to GFX Pokemon, and then we will create a folder for them. First thing we will do though is we will copy both of them onto the clipboard. Let's go back into our Poké Crystal folder. We'll go to GFX Pokemon, not Pokédex, and we've got a list of all the Pokemon here. We'll create a new folder, call it Love Disc, and let's paste in Love Disc Front and Love Disc Back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab Anim Idol, and Shiny.pal from any Pokemon's folder. We're going to copy those, and we're going to plonk them in the Love Disc folder as well. Now we're going to open up Anim and Anim Idol in Notepad++, and then get rid of anything that it says and just have End Anim at the bottom. That means it's a single frame for the Pokemon and we don't need to worry about any of the animations. If you're wanting to create custom shiny colours, open up Shiny.pal in Notepad++ as well, and you will see you have 2 values. One's for the first colour, one is for the second colour, but it's very important to note that this only goes up to 31. It's 0 to 31 instead of 0 to 255 like your regular RGB. So if you do have RGB colours you want to use, divide them by 8 and you should be roughly in the right ballpark for where you want to be. I'm not going to bother doing that though, because I think Abra's Shiny could be roughly similar to Love Disc's Shiny. And with that, there's just one thing left to do. Now that we've got Love Disc's images in the Love Disc folder, we can rename Love Disc Back to just Back. We'll rename Front to just Front, and we'll see if this thing builds. So let's now reopen up Sigwin. Let me get it onto the screen so that you can all see it. We'll do CD, and then we'll type in Poké Crystal, and then we just need to type make and hope for the best. You may have noticed we mentioned some files that we didn't actually create as we were going through that list. That's because RGBDS will make them for us. You can see we've had a bunch of files being added into that particular folder there behind us, and we see the PokéCrystal.gbc. That means that Love Disc is now in Pokémon Crystal. However, it's currently inaccessible. So there are a couple of things we can do in order to fix that. One of them is to set it as our starter. So we need to go into Squidgy, Crystal, Maps, and then elmslab.asm. Let's open that up in Notepad, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a find and replace whole word only for Totodiles. So if we do that, you should see 5 occurrences were replaced. That's what we're looking for. There are 5 references to the species constant Totodile. We'll unmatch whole word now and unmatch match case. And then what I want to do is very quickly look for the word water. We can see it still says text Totodile text. We don't worry about that. I always make sure that it makes grammatical and in-game sense when I edit the text here, though, so we can give that a save. The other thing we could do, though, is we could add it into the wild. For that, what we need to do is we need to go into data and then wild, and you can see all the different parameters for a Pokemon appearing in the wild are in this list. It's a fishing Pokemon, so we'll open up fish, and then you can also notice we've got Johto and Kanto's water and grass encounters split into their own regions. Let's put it in the Kanto water as well. I reckon Route 26 would be a good place. I've already done it here. I replaced Tentacle here with Love Disc. And then for fishing, all you would do is replace a Pokemon in the fish groups. There's more information on places like Bulbapedia about the fish groups. So say, for instance, you wanted it in Olivine City. You would look for the fish group associated with Olivine City, and you'd plonk it in that list. Remember to do it for all the rods you want. And with that, we are ready to run our make. Let us now get our Love Disc as a starter. It's also available in the wild in case you didn't pick the Totodile ball. Once this is made, I'll demonstrate it in action and then we'll call it there for this tutorial. There we go, it has all made. Let me open up a RetroArch and I will show you it in action. So let's now drag this in. I'm going to use this core here. I always have to select this when I create a fresh backport. And I should hopefully have a save all made up. There we go. We have Elm asking us, do we want to help him on his journey? We will say yes, just so that we can see. And the middle ball contains the water starter. So what we're hoping to see here is a Love Disc. That's exactly what we have. Let's take a little look at it, make sure that its sprite all works. And then I think we're good to go and say this is a tutorial all done and dusted. There we have our Love Disc with Tackle and Charm. And this one has been a roaring success. So if you have found this helpful, please do leave a like on the video. If you want to see more tutorials like this, click the subscribe button. Any feedback at all as well, please do leave it in the comments. I tried to make this as basic as possible without being too boring, and I will see you all very, very soon where we'll do something a little bit more complex.